Hi guys. So I decided to go over one of my own games. This was played in the year 2017 at the New York State Open in Lake George, New York. I think this was my first tournament this year, maybe. It was an interesting game, and it's the weird thing about it is the board is split in two. I had the white pieces, and I started with e4. My opponent played e5, knight to f3, and my opponent played knight to f6. The Russian game, Petrov's defense. And I generally play the gambit with bishop c4, or I go for the main lines, but I decided to go with knight to c3, the transposing into the four knights possibly. And my opponent played bishop to b4. He played this from reading an article. He thought it was an interesting move. And I played bishop to c4. And then my opponent played knight to c6. Another possibility, which maybe I was a little afraid of, but prepared for, was knight takes on e4 and going into this. And I think maybe the best in this position is just with bishop takes, but I'm not sure. Sometimes okay, this is wrong. This allows a fork, but yeah, this is probably what I would have to be maybe scared of. And I guess I'd just go back like this. I think I would have a decent position. I would be ahead in a little bit ahead in development, I think. Anyway, back to the game. So after knight to c6, I castled, and he castled. I played rook to e1, protecting e4, the strong point, I guess. d6 was played, and I played knight to d5. I'm not sure if this is, the best move, but I was motivated to play this move from the Carlsen and Karyakin World Championship match. I'm just like, okay, well, it's a solid, it's a solid idea, I guess. Exchanging, and he played bishop to c5. He didn't exchange, which is good, keeping pieces on the board for a tense game. I played d3, threatening bishop to g5, which is a strong threat. And so he played h6, and I just followed suit with h3, although I guess that was probably the best, maybe. Although my bishop g5 is stronger than his bishop to g4. So he played a6, giving his bishop an escape route, and I played a4. Another thing I could have probably considered was the bishop to e3, and at any point he could even mirror suit like this maybe, or just give he can exchange and give me a favorable position. I think bishop e3 is actually strong looking back. I haven't analyzed this with the engine, but a4 I just wanted to clamp down and keep my bishop alive, the light square bishop, because that, it's an important piece, even though my pawns are on light squares. He played rook to e8, and I played c3, just trying to control the the b4 and d4 squares. And he played bishop to d7, which I think was inaccurate. He could have even made. Well, okay, no, it's not accurate. It's not inaccurate. It's a solid move, but this immediately might have been a little better, just because I think the exchanges favor him more because he's ahead in development, maybe. But anyway, I played knight to e3 after bishop to d7. I just want to get to f5, but I want to go on to f5 under favorable circumstances, because he can always just chop away with the bishop. In an ideal world, I would have exchanged light square bishops, and then I can go to f5, and there's no pawn on e6 or g6 blocking that from happening. Or g6 would be good for a weakening king, but he played, now after playing knight to e3, he played bishop to e6. now, which is a strong move, and I played knight to f1 within so with this in mind, now if I played bishop takes e6, I was afraid of f takes on e6, and I can never get to f5. I would have this g6 square as a weakness, but those central pawns are pretty strong, and I think in many positions I would even prefer black's position in this case. Now rook takes e6. If he intended rook takes e6, then that would be amazing for me. Then I can just play knight f5 straight away and have a plus minus position here. Now after I played knight to f1, he played the strong d5, which I somewhat looked at, but I didn't actually look deep or see the huge weakening of my position. I looked at this and I saw, okay, I can just play bishop to b3 and just keep an equal. I would maintain an equal position, but d5 I think is the strongest move, and he played it. Another thing I thought he would be tempted to do was bishop takes on c4 and d takes on c4, and then I have a nice clamp on the d5 square, and I mean my pawn majority isn't terribly stunted. It's giving me some good space advantage on the queen side, and I can maybe create some good weaknesses and attack those. So anyway, yeah, d5 was played, and I played bishop to b3, and now he played d takes on e4, d takes d on e4, and queen e7 is a good move. If I was in the black position, I would have probably played it, but this is probably objectively stronger. Queen takes d1, bishop takes d1, and he would have all of his pieces on pretty ideal squares, and he can have a decent late endgame advantage. But keeping queens on board, I think, is also good, maintaining some great tension. And with his idea, it actually showed a great counterplay in the game with a queenside bind. So I played bishop takes on e6, and then I underestimated. So his queen move, I didn't really. I sort of underestimated his queen move because I sort of counted on the f takes. I think, which is what I would have probably chosen. I would have chosen this, and in this position, black is not worse because the double pawns control essential squares, and the double pawns are at most like one weakness, and generally in these kind of like in chess, you need two weaknesses to win. If it's one weakness, it's hard to win. So yeah, he played queen takes e6, and now his queen replaced this bishop, so it's just recharging it on the light squares. And then I played knight to g3, going for the f5, which for me it's like a mini achievement because I can actually get a piece on f5 without it getting chopped off by a piece, or I can provoke weakness on the king in a favorable circumstance. Now he played rook a to d8, which is a good move, and then I played queen to e2. Now here, yeah, this is where I underestimated his queen. I kept trying to decide in my calculation of e2 and c2, but then I didn't. I mean, I looked at queen b3, but I thought it wouldn't really achieve anything too much. I thought it would just gum up things on the queen side, and it did gum up things and put some great counterplay on my position. But yeah, if I played queen c2, he can go maybe knight a5, b4, and knight b3, rook b1, and this game I think looks equal. I think. Now back to the game. He played this queen b3, which is good, and I think it's a strong move looking back because of the material grabbing possibilities it holds, and counterplay, and I only can the main way I can make progress is now only on the king side. This queen side is blocked. So now I just went for knight h4, ostensibly trying to just double up pieces on that f5 square, maybe even sacrifice something on f5 under favorable circumstances. And he played rook to d7, and then I played queen to f3, thinking I was threatening something, but really, okay, in the most ideal situation, I was trying to go for this like just cheap trick like this. But even if this position is reached, he's still got a good position. Like, so my cheap trick, he's got such a good position that even if I do a cheap trick like that, he can put up a good fight. That's if he did nothing. But then the computer, okay, I looked at the sensible knight h7, and the cheap trick actually still works here because of the rook on d7. So now he can try queen takes b2 in an ideal move situation, and then if g takes, then queen g4 check and picking up the rook on d7, or yeah, on queen takes b2, then I go for the bishop takes on g7, and then king takes g7, then my queen g4 check, winning that rook. And now in this situation, the computer recommended rook e to d8, seemingly ignoring my threat. And the computer recommends here king h2, preparing for that invasion onto the first rank. But if I tried my cheap trick here, there's this rook d3 intermediate move, and I guess bishop e3 is forced here, or recommended by the computer anyway, and then queen takes b2, and he's equal in pawns, and he has a better advantage on the queen side. I have some good chances on the king side, maybe. And so, yeah, if I played king h2, the computer said rook d3, and then queen e2, and it's a minus plus position here. He's got initiative, and I have some hopes on the king side, but I think he has the center and the control of the game. Now here, after I played queen f3, he played rook e6. It looks a bit artificial, and I was somewhat pleased when he played that, but it's a good defensive piece, and it's an attacking piece at the same time, because if he wanted, he can maybe attack my king, and there is a variation where his rook is decisive in the attacking of my king as a computer variation. Now here I played knight hf5, which is my whole plan, and then he played bishop to f8, which is a good move. It's solid, and it reinforces the king, frees up his space on the queen side, and he can maneuver more, and maybe grab some good material and get some good pressure going. And here I then realized my queen was somewhat misplaced. I think I sort of realized that my cheap trick sort of thing I was trying to do was sort of a waste of time. And so I just went queen back to e2, trying to control more of these light squares on the queen side, and just hold things together and wait for him to make a mistake. And I hopefully wouldn't make a mistake myself. And then, yeah, I also was thinking in the back of my head of Michael Adams and his little queen moves, which seem insignificant but actually somehow win the game with some weird reason. So that when I played this move, I had that in mind, unusually. And then he played king to h7, and then I played queen to e3, hoping that if g6 I can take on h6 or something like that. I just wanted to put a lot of pressure on his king with this battery. And he played the rook to d1. I didn't think it was the best to go for some exchanges because too much, because I don't know. Okay, maybe it's good because he can get some more control of half the board with his queen, and I lose some of the board. But there's trade-offs. I actually counted on knight to g8. I thought this was the most difficult thing to crack, and I couldn't really find a concrete plan if he was to play this move. Whereas in his move, I think I have more of a way to have a plan. And I was hoping for g6, like in an ideal situation, he would play g6, and then I can go for some maybe h4s and undermining and think of some kind of critical operations. But rook to d1 was played, and I played rook takes d1, and he took with a queen with check, and I went to king h2, and now he played knight to d7. And I didn't really think of this move too much. I mean, he's putting it on the stronger side of the board, and he's going to take over or solidify more control over the c4. We can see c4 square and maybe even the a4 square. Yeah, I actually didn't think of this. I guess I was worried maybe, and on my own, I guess just planning. And then I was forgetting about his plans. And I played b4. I thought I was doing great, kind of, when I played b4 because I finally was able to break out of that terrible bind with that queen on b3, and I just felt my bishop was just completely. It was like a pawn. It was worth about a pawn, I thought. So I was extremely happy with the idea of playing b4. And also when I played b4, I was sort of looking hopefully pretty deep at playing b5 and putting my rook on the a8 square in an ideal situation. Then I can, hopefully make some good progress. Or I can at least misplace the c6 knight and get it out of the center influence. He played queen b3. I thought that was okay. And then I played. I was trying to trap his queen. So I was playing for knight e3 and rook a3 or something like that. Like I was trying to just trap his queen somehow. That's what I had in mind here. And he played knight b6 with this plan. Then I played rook a3, and I was hoping for him to play queen c4. Then I win the game, like just with knight e3 here. I was hoping for this, but he plays the extremely precise and amazing queen b1, which I did see, and I didn't know what to do when I saw it in my calculating. Yeah, now I played queen to d1, just trying to get this rook doing something. If I can get a draw out of this, that would be amazing with some kind of repeating. And then he played g6 here, a critical point. He played a perfect point, I think, to play g6. And then I played rook b3. He played queen to a2, and then I played a5. I didn't like knight e3 too much, I think. Let's see what the here the computer thinks. I don't know. It's not working at the moment. But so I think my move is strong, attacking this knight on the b6 square as a counterattack, and trying to get some exchanging if it went to c4 or something. It was just a counterattack idea. I didn't really. I'm just hoping he would make a mistake, and also I wanted to get control of d7 for my queen. So the purpose of a5 when I made this move was if whoever blinks first generally loses sometimes, and I was hoping that his blink would just give me some kind of attack. Another thing he could have tried is g takes on f5, and the computer said rook b2 is good, queen c4. I would have probably considered rook b2 in the real game. I would have just probably played more straightforward. Maybe take on b6, very standard. Like immediately, but like the thing with my sort of strategy was to keep his queen away from my king and keep his queen distracted, and it's sort of psychological sort of plan. Now here the computer recommended f4, knight f5, and then taking, and this is a weird computer variation where black has a great control of the board and everything, but I mean if you sort of look at this, I mean my king is safe. I think his king is somewhat weak a little bit, but the computer keeps control of everything. But now if we go back to the game, yeah, he played knight to c4, and I played this move, which I'm counting a knight c4. I was going to sacrifice and counterattack, and I played queen d7. And I was extremely happy, and he was sort of, I think, scared. And actually, queen d7 isn't what the computer recommended. The computer recommended knight to e3, and then the computer recommended rook d6. I did see this too when I was making my decision. I just didn't like rook d6 because then his rook comes right back to the file, which I just got rid of a rook in. And then the computer recommended this, and I'm still bound on the queen side. I still haven't finished my problems. No problems solved. I was trying to solve some problems. So I thought queen d7 solved all my problems, but I mean the computer finds some good defensiveness. Rook f6 I did see, and I think that was the best defense, and he played the best defense. Another thing I did count on was king g8, and then the blinking, and then knight takes h6, and it's if he takes the bishop as its mate, I had tricks like that I was counting on. Like I saw like if you take the bishop it's mate, but yeah, here this is the computer's best variation, and I think in that computer's variation yeah, white's better in that variation. But rook f6 is the one choice I think that gives black that that slight pull. And now I played queen e8, which is what I counted on after I saw rook f6. I made all of these decisions at after when I played a5, I saw all these decisions. In the queen e8, I saw all that. And so I was pretty content with my calculation at this point. And then computer recommended b5, which is a deep clearance tactic, which goes like a takes on b5, rook takes on b5, queen takes on f2, then queen e8, and then the defensive resource of bishop to a3, and then bishop to h6, g takes on f5, knight takes on f5, knight to d6, forking the family, knight takes on d6, and bishop takes on d6, bishop g5, and rook to f3. Now the point of the b5 move I'm going to show you later in a different variation. But in this one, he's completely winning with that counterattack on my king on the f2, which is pretty incredible and amazing. And in a real practical game, it's always hard and difficult to come up with all these things when you have a free rook that you could take on b3, which is a poisoned rook, believe it or not. And it's legitimately poisoned. But yeah, so a g takes on f5 he played. It was I think this was his mistake. I think just playing sort of into my hands. I think oh yeah, the computer recommended bishop g7, knight takes on h6, which I did count on with that tactic of mating, which I showed you earlier. And except I didn't consider rook b2. I was thinking I can sacrifice the rook or something. Like I was thinking of this variation, bishop g7, knight takes, and go for something like this. But his counterattack on my king, I think, is decisive. I think with something like this maybe, or something. I don't know. My engine's not working right now, but something like that. Like he has time to do something, basically. And yeah, you can't take this bishop because of my attacking like this, which I calculated. And it was proud of my calculations, I think. I don't know if this was correct, but okay, yeah, I guess that's correct, because I can get something like this maybe. So g takes on f5, playing sort of into what I was hoping for. And then I played queen takes on f5, or queen takes on f8. And then he played knight to d6. A move I also sort of missed. I was hoping he would take the rook, and then I would get some kind of just strong attack. And but he finds these moves where I have to reevaluate everything. I played knight to h5. Another idea is e takes on f5, which is, I think, what the computer also recommended. I thought my move was equally as strong, but with e takes on f5, I thought it was I don't know, it was kind of scary. I was hoping I can put more forcing moves and make him do more stuff. Queen takes on b3 is what the computer recommended, then knight h5, and then knight e8 defends. And okay, now here's the point of the b5 move. So yeah, I'm a piece down here, but I think here white is actually better, believe it or not. So the computer recommended this deep b5 move, either misplacing the queen from f7 or misplacing the knight. Now if he takes this, then there's this queen takes to h6, queen takes on f6, and he has to get away from the mating threat with king f8. And now I have this weakening of the defender, which is the b7 square of the knight. And yeah, that's it. Recommended the computer said king e8, queen h8, king d7, then taking. And it seems that I think white is better in this position. Maybe he can counterattack the bishop, but I don't think he can favorably stop that queening, and he would have to give up a piece. And so now back to the computer variation. Knight e7, queen takes h6, king g8, queen g5 check, king f8, and queen takes f6, and white is winning here. So after he played g takes and f5, he was losing. It takes so when you're, I guess, like an acrobatic on a tightrope or something, one small slip and you sort of fall off the edge, I guess it seems, in sort of sharp games. But yeah, so queen takes on f8, knight d6, and I played knight h5, and now he played rook g6, and then I was looking for forcing moves again, and I played this bishop takes on h6, and it was very aesthetically pleasing. Now the computer recommended again here e takes on f5, which is also a forcing move, and I did consider this move. Like, this is my second choice, but yeah, I thought my move was bishop takes on h6 was more forcing and had more of an effect psychologically, and it was more aesthetically pleasing. So that's why I picked this during the game. And there was no good way to punish it because of removing the defender of g7. So he played knight to e8, which is a strong move. And he's now the thing is, my king is actually open now. So if I make a mistake, he's got some. If I waste time, he's got an attack and mate on g2 probably. So yeah, he played knight e8, and this move did surprise me a little bit. And I think I missed this in my calculation. I was psychologically pumped up, so I was, I guess, not very serious, and I guess it was a good time for me to find a blunder, maybe. But so I guess I recalculated after this, and then I was pretty happy with everything. And so I played e takes on f5. Trying to remove that defender or make him make a mistake. You know, it's a free pawn too. And then he took on h6. It's difficult to find a defense. And here I saw this, and I was pretty happy because I win the knight and mate. And so I went for queen takes on f7, king h8. I took here, king h7, queen f7. He resigned here, but I could play this, and it's mate. And this was probably this is one of my best games I've ever played. I am currently trying to become an international master, and I have a lot of work to do. But a lot of my influence in chess has been Alexei Shirov and Mikhail Tal. But I'm trying to bring in more positional elements and trying to solidify some more aspects of my play and to play more objectively and not allow myself to be bound up, you know, or making blunders. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I wish you the best holidays, and thanks for watching.